This is The Weekly Set, an official podcast of TheTotalScreen.com.
I wish I was the monster you think I am.
You have come here to beseech me?
Can't ask for your soul.
Madness can be a medicine for the modern world.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Weekly Set, the official podcast of The Total Screen. I'm your host. My name is Tyson, and joining me today, as always, is my partner in crime here at The Total Screen, William Rohrig.
Hello.
So today we are going to be talking about The Mandalorian. In fact, we're going to be closing our discussion of Season 2 of The Mandalorian by discussing Season 2, Episode 8, The Rescue, the Season 2 finale. So this is, the end of the road for this year. This is our last podcast of the year as well. We won't be back until January, when we're going to be doing an episode about the best of 2020. But until then, let's wrap things up on The Mandalorian. Let's talk about the season finale. So first things first, right off the bat, I wanted to ask, what were your general impressions? Because I know that most of the stuff I've seen around the internet has been like lots of hyperbole about like the most amazing thing ever. Reignited my love for Star Wars.
My general impressions of like the show, you mean?
No, the season finale.
Oh, just the season finale. Okay. So my general impressions is it was fine. It was a good episode. It wasn't amazing. It didn't reinvigorate my love for Star Wars or anything. It was a pretty standard episode, all things considered.
But your love of Star Wars was reinvigorated by the original Star Wars Christmas special way back in the day.
Yes. That light has been burning. I mean, it's a pretty standard episode. I mean, they did the things that you expected them to do. And I don't know, it was a cool episode, but I didn't think it was amazing. I thought the episode with Bill Burr was much better.
Yeah. There's been a few episodes that I think that have been better than this season finale. I thought the one with Asuka also was way better.
Yeah.
There's been a few. Maybe even the first episode was better, you know? It's weird, how much absolute, undying love and loyalty has come from this episode around the internet, because I thought there were actually quite a few problems. There were quite a few bits that I had,
Yeah, there were quite a few things.
There's, character moments that kind of fell apart, that just felt, out of character and wrong. That, happened, that were just okay. Moff Gideon, I think, was horribly portrayed in this episode.
Yeah.
He didn't act like Moff Gideon.
Yeah, well, he had the job this episode, so he jobbed.
Yeah.
That's what the story called for. So basically, shit, I can't think. So basically, one of the things, that I thought was, totally contrived was the whole thing around the Darksaber, around how, basically
it has to be one kind of thing.
Yeah, it has to be one.
Apparently there's an inconsistency. So neither you and I have watched Clone Wars or Rebels. We've mentioned, I watched one episode of Clone Wars I remembered. And then seen little bits and pieces.
I just hate it because it's a forced confrontation.
Yeah, but even worse, it goes against that, against what happened before in either Clone Wars or Rebels. Apparently she accepted it before from somebody. So it's kind of what?
So now just to have forced drama, she get I hate that. I hate that when writers force drama where there normally wouldn't be any drama.
Definitely.
We have to invent a reason for conflict.
And it doesn't go anywhere either. It's brought up really quickly, made a huge sticking point, and then just completely forgotten a second later.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's now we have to fight. It's but we gotta take care of the bad guys first, and the episode's over. Oh well. It's what? I guess that's a thread they'll pick up next season, I'm assuming.
I don't know. And here's the thing, this goes to the post-credit scene. The end of the post-credit scene, we'll talk about the rest of the post-credit scene later, but the end of the post-credit scene says the book of Boba Fett.
That's a new show. That's separate.
I don't think so, and here's why I don't think so.
No.
Because all of the episodes are listed as chapters.
Do not tell me you think so, and this is the reason why you think so. It was announced as a new show.
It was never announced as a new show. When was it announced as a new show?
I will give you. I will give
I saw speculation that it was a new show, but I never saw.
No, it's not beyond. It's beyond. No, it's not speculation. It is a new show coming to Disney Plus next year. The Book of Boba Fett is a brand new series coming to Disney Plus in 2021, according to StarWars.com, the official Star Wars website.
Seriously?
That's the headline.
I never saw that. There's so much confusion about that before.
The Book of Boba Fett, I posted in Discord for you, The Book of Boba Fett, a new series coming December 2021 on Disney Plus. That's the headline on StarWars.com.
Alright, well that's good, but even still, like, I don't even understand where they're gonna take The Mandalorian now, if that isn't the direction they were gonna take.
Right, yeah, I have no idea. So the end stinger was a stinger for a completely different show.
Yeah.
And so we actually, and that's actually kind of annoying, because I like for, like, the end season stingers for a show to be, like, kind of like a hint or a preview of the next season.
See, I fully anticipated I wouldn't be on board for Mandalorian Season 3 because that's what I thought it was gonna be.
Uh-huh.
And like, to me, like, Boba Fett, like, works in small doses. Like, I don't want to watch a full show about Boba Fett. You know? He's not a character I want to invest time with. He's more like a character I want to see come in, do some badass stuff, and then go away, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it could be good. I mean, I'm not gonna, like, poo-poo it, but it's like, yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see how that goes. But but apparently, yeah, that's spinning off into its own thing. So the Mandalorian will still be the Mandalorian. So it'll still be...
But no Baby Yoda.
Focus on Din. No Baby Yoda.
No great mission forward. No adversary that was set up through the first season and into the second.
Well, it's a blank slate, right? So they can start over with a new story for Din.
Yeah. I just don't know, because it's like you think about everything that they've set up.
Well, he still has to fight Bo-Katan, apparently.
Oh, I guess.
Yeah.
That contrived bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, if you think about, like, the other stuff they set up, because it's like, oh, they set up that there's a villain in the shadows that they set up with the Asuka episode, but there's gonna be an Asuka series, so why would they do that on The Mandalorian? That should be like he should be in the Asuka series.
Yeah, and you know what? This season was a lot of fucking, backdoor pilots for new shows.
Yeah.
I know. So the Asuka episode was great, but that was a pilot for Asuka the series. You know, like, the Boba Fett showing up was to just give him his own show. And the Cara Dune, everything involving her was a setup for her own series, which is going to be like, I forgot the name of the show, but it's
they announced
definitely
it.
The headliner.
Yeah, unless they decide to just fire her and do something else or cancel the show.
But I mean, that's I'm pretty sure, like, that show is, like, centers around her character.
It centers around her character going around the Star Wars universe removing people's masks. No mask. You can't breathe. I'm helping you.
So there was a lot of, like, using this season of Mandalorian to just sell, like, other shows.
Yeah. As opposed to what Star Wars usually does, which was use the season to sell lots of toys.
Yeah, exactly.
But man, I don't see where it's gonna go that's gonna be all that interesting. If it doesn't have that kind of father-son relationship thing between Din and Baby Yoda, and if they somehow bring Baby Yoda back to him, that's gonna feel forced and contrived too. So it's like they're kind of in a situation where, like, what are they gonna fucking do?
Yeah, fucking, Luke drops Baby Yoda off, says, this fucking kid. Yeah. I'm not a babysitter, sorry. Like, no.
I took him back to a planet with this lovely race, and he just kept eating all of their eggs.
Yeah, so I guess that brings us to, like, the big surprise, which was, like, at the end. And this is another, like, problem that the episode had, was, like, sure, like, Luke showing up was cool. So I'm of two minds of that, but I'll get into that more. But I
feel about the same, probably.
I'll get into that more, but I want to first talk about, like, it's kind of BS how, like, the climax of the episode is solved by a character who is, like, never mentioned or doesn't appear at all in the series until, like, those last 5 minutes to save everybody. Like, that's kind of lame.
Lucas Ex Machina.
Yeah. He was basically a Deus Ex Machina. And I know, like, they set up in the previous episode, but, like, to have him come in and, like, resolve the climax of, like, this, you know, the episode was kind of lame. As far as the actual cameo goes, I thought it was cool. They had an actor playing Luke. They had Mark Hamill do the voice, but the actual body was a stand-in, and it looked like they did some CGI.
Either
to the
CGI
face.
or like deepfake on the face. Like it kind of looks like deepfake to me.
Yeah.
And it has one of the hallmarks of deepfake is that it doesn't work good on close-up, so they always like have it further out, and they never showed like Luke in a close-up. It was always like kind of a medium or further out shot.
Right.
So to me, that makes me think it was a deepfake. But
so they used deepfake to.
But deepfake always looks a little unnatural around the edges, and it did here too. Like
it did,
whether it was CG or deepfake, it looked a little unnatural, a little uncanny valley-esque.
They didn't completely sell it.
Yeah.
I thought it looked off. But I knew what they were going for. They wanted to.
I also don't think that he had Luke's swagger, like the guy who stood in. Like the fight was cool and everything, but once he like walked up and stuff, like Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker had like a certain way of walking, like a kind of loose way of walking and stuff. And this was much more stiff and upright, you know, like, and it didn't match that well. Like it didn't feel the same. I don't know. I felt like it was kind of badly done. You know, maybe it was too ambitious for what they were going for. You know?
Yeah. I don't know. So here's the thing. So narrative wise, with what they were like leading up to, it makes sense. They have to give Baby Yoda away to somebody. So they had Baby Yoda, like, as soon as they said they had Baby Yoda, like, summoning, like, put him on this rock, have him summon a Jedi, like, I knew it was most likely going to be Luke out of everybody, because it makes sense. It makes sense.
That'd be the biggest fan service pop.
Yeah, it's fan service, and it also makes sense, like, for, like, the story, because, again, they're 5 years after Return of the Jedi, there aren't a lot of Jedi bouncing around the universe. We've already met one of them.
There was that one Rebels character that they were talking about.
Yeah, there's the one Rebels character. I actually don't know, like, anybody else, to be honest. So, I mean, that makes sense. And also, I kind of like it is kind of, like, poetic that, like, Luke takes in, like, one of Yoda's race to train when Yoda's the one who trained Luke. Like, okay.
They could have done more with that, too, with, like, Luke's reaction and stuff.
Yeah, they could have. Luke didn't have any reaction.
He could have, like,
okay.
Because Luke isn't that stoic. That's another thing. It wasn't just the posture, but Luke as a character is not that stoic.
Yeah. He's
more like, you know, that was one of the reasons why, like, it was always like, oh, you're not going to be a good Jedi because you're too emotional and stuff like that. His reaction should have, like, he should have broke out into a big broad smile. There's like all these things, and they didn't do any of that, you know? It made it feel kind of like not him in a way.
Yeah, it was kind of strange. And so I'm of the mind that yes, it makes sense for a story. It was a cool cameo.
Yeah, I mean, it's badass watching him mow through all the robots, you know?
Yeah, it was badass watching him mow through the Dark Troopers.
Yeah.
But the other part of me is like, Star Wars cannot, like, leave, like, 3 movies that happened, 40 years ago alone.
Yeah.
You know, like, can we move beyond the original trilogy now? Like, can we just do, like, new stories with new characters and, like, just explore, like, other interesting facets of the universe without having to constantly reference, like, these movies?
I wanted a reference from Luke. Like, I always thought that would make a lot of sense to have Luke show up at some point. But, and I've mentioned this before in a different podcast, I think it literally should have just been like, there should have been a scene kind of like when, he encountered the rogue leaders and had to, like, run away in, like, the second episode. It should have been something like that, except instead of a chase, just maybe an X-Wing flying by or something and saying, hey, traveler, or something, making some comment just over the radio.
Yeah.
And just his voice, and that's it. They never say his name, they never anything, but people that know the series and know, like, Mark Hamill's voice and shit are like, oh shit, that was Luke Skywalker, and that would be it. Like, just a real quick kind of cameo would have been like such a cool moment without like forcing it into the series. You know what I mean? Like that would have been a cool way to say like, yes, this is all part of this huge universe, but without like forcing it into the plot.
No, you gotta force it into the plot. That has to happen.
Yeah. That is the way.
This is the way.
Yeah, this is the way.
I would just like to see, like, I would like to see the franchise evolve. And it can't do that if it constantly goes back to the well of nostalgia.
Skywalker family.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It is a limitation on it, you know. I mean, that's why it's always interesting when they talk about doing something like, oh, a series set or a movie set like thousands of years before the events. It's like, yes, let's get as far away from those characters as we can. Like even before Yoda was born. Sure, let's do that, you know?
Right.
It's like there's literally not a single character we know of that's been born yet, you know? It's like stuff like that is kind of like, okay, yeah, that's interesting. That's a different way. Or like people that have said, let's go to like the far reaches of the Star Wars universe, things that aren't even areas that were never even touched by the Empire, you know? It's like, yeah, that's interesting. It's like you can explore like all these different ideas with that, you know? But like, yeah, that's the limitation. They just keep clinging on to Skywalker, you know?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Man. Another, if we're going to air our grievances in the Festivus tradition.
Yes.
My next one, and I saw somebody else mention this like on like Reddit, I think, and I like was like, yes, exactly, is how does a fucking laser gun jam?
I don't know.
My gun is jammed. What?
Cara Dune sucks. I mean, that's the only explanation I can think of. Yeah, my laser gun is jammed. I'm like, okay.
All those masks I ripped off people's face got stuck somewhere inside the gun and it jammed.
I get that they were going for humor. Like the whole thing, that part was just like done for like humor purposes, but
it's just not great. Yeah. It was bad. I didn't like the Dark Trooper moment either. Like when they set them up as like, they like zoomed in on their faces, they showed them marching and they played this music that was really kind of like very cheesy, like mid-80s, really bad mid-80s sci-fi like robot music.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that like really took away from like the moment, you know, like I liked the fight between the one Dark Trooper and Mando. I thought that was really cool, especially like the way that Dark Trooper kind of animated almost like stop motion-y.
Yeah,
like it kind of had this jerky motion to it, which is like similar to what they did in like Westworld when they remember like the pilot episode of Westworld where they were like showing the tics or malfunctions of the host and they did that like jerky kind of motion.
Oh yeah.
It kind of reminded me of that, and it's a really cool effect and it really added to it and stuff. And like I said, I liked that fight, but there were other things that there was so much around it that was stupid. I mean, why the fuck are the Dark Troopers all inside of an airlock? Like, like what sense does that make? The room where they keep the Dark Troopers charging is an airlock. What? How does that make sense?
That made like, that was like another stupid thing. Again, that was written, it's like, sure, let's put like our, you know, like our ultimate like weapons in the fucking airlock. So like any idiot can open it and just like get rid of them.
Yeah.
But apparently like they can come back from that, so that's fine. But it's like, yeah, that's another thing where like anybody competent running that ship would not choose that location.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and we're supposed to believe that Moff Gideon is a competent person. But yet
that transitions to probably my biggest grievance of this episode, and that's the way Moff Gideon was handled.
Yeah.
It was just really poorly. It just didn't make sense. It didn't match up to his character. I mean, from the very beginning, his first scene, their plan is to like, Boba Fett's gonna chase one, an Imperial ship with his ship so that they have to like, you know, assist and then open up their doors and that's how they're gonna get in. Why the fuck would, that doesn't match with Moff Gideon's character to care, even if it is an Imperial ship. It doesn't match with what we've learned of his character that he would give two shits about that other ship.
Right.
Like, it's not something from his ship. It's not something that's unaccounted for. It's not something he's worried about. Why would he care? You know, like, it just doesn't match. Like, he'd just be like, oh, I don't know who that pilot is. Just let him die. I don't care. Like, that would be Moff Gideon's character. It doesn't make sense that he would like, oh, send out the TIE fighters. You have to protect them and stuff, you know? It's like, what? Like, he hasn't really shown strict loyalty to the Empire. He's part of the Empire, but he's not like, he's like killed other people from the Empire because his ambitions were greater, you know? That's happened in like the first season. Like our first introduction to that character was him murdering another member of the Empire.
Right, exactly.
It's like it just doesn't match to his character. And then they just kind of made him like really weaselly and pathetic too. So like he loses to Mando. It's like, yeah, okay. Like there's nothing to imply that he was like a great warrior. So that's fine that he'd lose to like a badass like Mando.
Right.
But then he gets dragged around and he's just like bitching and whining the whole time and making like little like like trying to make little digs at people. It just didn't work. It just didn't match.
Well, you see, he had a grand plan. His plan was to job, because he knows it. Remember, he told Mando he knows everything, literally. Mm-hmm. So his plan was to job to Mando so that Mando would have to fight Bo-Katan over the Darksaber. That was the whole plan all along.
Mafia clause.
Yeah.
He knows when you are sleeping. He knows when you want the Darksaber.
He knows when you want the dark. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that just didn't work. We're right on the edge of grievances here though and stuff, but talking about just all of our grievances with the episode. I mean, it was still a fun episode to watch.
It's a fun episode. It was fine. It was perfectly entertaining. Like I said, like, for people who say it was a great episode, I don't necessarily agree with that. You know, I think people are just kind of like happy. You know, so there were some excellent, you talked about bad character moments with, Moff Gideon, but there were some excellent character moments, especially with, Din the Mandalorian, the scene where he was, basically giving, Grogu to Luke. That was a very touching scene. You could see the attachment.
Got to take off his mask again.
He took off his mask for Grogu, like, that's how strong the bond is. That was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there were some good character moments.
Yeah, there's some good stuff in there. Like, I felt like they kind of wasted Bo-Katan. They just kind of didn't really do much interesting with her. They did that forced drama thing that didn't really work. They gave Cara Dune that really stupid rifle jamming thing, and then they completely just butchered Moff Gideon's character. So you see all those negatives and stuff, but yeah, they did have that really touching moment between Din and Grogu at the end, giving him up to Luke and stuff, which was really cool. That's pretty much it though, right? I mean, that's like the one like really kind of touching good moment in the episode. Other than that, there's like a few cool fight scenes and stuff, and otherwise there's a lot wrong with the episode, I feel. A lot of it felt rushed too. Like it felt like this should have been like a two-parter, This should have been like a two-parter or like just a longer episode.
Yeah, probably I wouldn't say like a two-parter, but maybe a longer, I don't know. I don't necessarily feel that way. I think they were stretching it to make it to almost an hour with that, with what they had. I can't see it go longer. Unless they actually drew out the battle with the Dark Troopers, but the idea was always to be like Luke was going to come and take him out.
I think it would have been interesting if like it was a two-parter and the first part ended with them locked inside the brig of the ship, I guess, with the Dark Troopers outside hammering away, and that's where it went. And then in the next episode, you'd start to get around to a lot of the character drama of like you could have actually addressed the ship between Bo-Katan and Din, and like because they're like locked in a room basically, and then you could start bringing in like you could have it so that Luke doesn't kind of completely save them. Like you could have the door be breached and robots start getting. There's like ways you could have done that would have made it, I think, more interesting and work.
Right.
I just don't think they did. I think they kind of messed that up a little bit, but. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I've had kind of mixed feelings about this season. Like, there's some really big highs, and then there's some, like, obvious nostalgia plays that are just, like, too obvious, like, pandering obvious, And it kind of, like, it's kind of, like, lays somewhere between that. It lays somewhere between, like, it's doing cool stuff, and it's doing interesting and cool stuff, and it's pandering. It's somewhere kind of between those two worlds.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
So, are you excited for season 3 where we have absolutely no idea what anything's going to happen?
I mean, I enjoy the show, so sure.
I mean, I guess maybe he's going to be, besides the fight with Bo-Katan, maybe instead of that, they're going to focus more on him joining Bo-Katan to, like, retake Mandalore or something.
They could do that. Let's get the dumb fight over quick, and then, have them team up to retake Mandalore. They could do like, I could see a thread where they do like a very Mandalore centric season. Yeah.
That would be a way to do it, I guess we can kind of finish things off. We can talk about the post-credit scene, because we talked about the whole, like, thing about, you know, it not being season 3 and all that stuff and about the Book of Boba Fett, but we didn't talk about what actually happened.
Okay. What actually happened wasn't very exciting, but let's go ahead.
Well, I mean, but it is like the final kind of moment, so it's like, it's something to bring up at least. But basically it was another big nostalgia kick, and we find out that after Jabba the Hutt died, that his little assistant guy, with the weird, like, little neck thing, ended up kind of taking over his palace. And then, Boba Fett and Fennec raided the palace and, you know, killed, I think, pretty much everybody.
Boba Fett kills him and yeah, pretty much everybody else. And then basically Boba Fett sits in the chair, in Jabba's old chair, with Fennec by him, and it looks like this is the Book of Boba Fett. And you're kind of like, okay, what's going on? Is like Boba Fett establishing himself as like a crime boss now? Like what's he doing?
the Fett family.
Like what's he doing? And this is an entire series apparently.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Like I said, I'm not too interested in watching a series about Boba Fett because he's best in small doses, you know?
Right.
When you kind of don't do small doses of Boba Fett, you take out the mystery and then he becomes less interesting. So yeah, I don't know what they're gonna do with him, you know, but I guess that's a new series we're getting. So next year is gonna be pretty huge on Disney Plus, man.
It is.
We got like 3 or 4 like Marvel shows, and then like Mandalorian season 3, the Book of Boba Fett as its own series, I guess. Like both of those are due at the end of next year. And then isn't another one of the Star Wars ones coming out next year too? I'm pretty sure they said another one of them was coming out. So it went from basically the only actual show we got from the entire last year, from when the service started until now, has been 2 seasons of The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have like something like 10 plus new shows next year, you know? So yeah, it's gonna be kind of interesting. Be an interesting year next year. Hopefully better than this year in lots of ways. That's pretty much it though. Is there anything else you want to talk about The Mandalorian? You want to make it maybe a comment about the season as a whole?
Season as a whole, I liked it. I liked the season. I liked it better than the first season. I thought it was entertaining. I thought there was a lot to love about it. No, it's a simple show, but it's an entertaining show.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's fine by me.
Yeah, not everything has to be like, you know, intrigue upon intrigue.
Right.
So yeah, that's, I feel pretty much the same. There's a lot I enjoyed in this season. I am particularly just blown away by what they're pulling off as far as like from a technical production standpoint, you know? I'm really blown away, and it's exciting to see TV reach levels like that as far as like production goes. Game of Thrones was like an anomaly before, and now it's like kind of becoming the norm, I guess, for like big shows. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, I don't know, man. I guess I wasn't 100% positive about the first season either, so it kind of fits in around the same for me, I guess.
Right.
So all we have left to do now is talk about what's coming up in the next couple of weeks. Well, since we're not going to be back until like the first third of January is over, this one's going to be a little bit longer, but on Thursday, December 24th, Christmas Eve, Shadowlines comes to Sundance Now. On Friday, December 25th, Christmas, Bridgerton comes to Netflix. And then also, although these are not TV shows, Soul comes to Disney Plus, and Wonder Woman 1984 come to HBO Max. Those are just big deals. That's why I wanted to bring that up. On Saturday, December 26th, Letterkenny comes to Hulu. On Wednesday, December 30th, Vikings moves to Amazon Prime. Equinox comes to Netflix, and Transformers War for Cybertron Earthrise miniseries comes to Netflix. On Thursday, December 31st, New Year's Eve, Cleaning Up comes to Sundance Now, and Chilling Adventures of Sabrina returns to Netflix. On Sunday, January 3rd, The Rookie returns to ABC. That's going to be interesting to watch like new episodes of a cop procedural show after this year and everything that's kind of been going on. It'll be interesting to see how that's kind of addressed and handled.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of blame being put at the foot of like procedurals and movies and stuff for like glorifying police activity and police officers, you know?
Right.
So it'll be really interesting to see kind of when those shows start rolling back, like how they address that. Also on that day, Elizabeth is Missing comes to PBS. Call Me Kat comes to Fox. It's a remake of the British show Miranda. Miranda is a hilarious show. It kind of almost feels like a British version of I Love Lucy. So it'll be interesting to see if this is like just garbage remake or if it's good. I mean, that's kind of British remakes kind of come like that, right? Like every so often you get a The Office, but usually you don't. Usually you get garbage, with a remake of a British show. So we'll have to see how this turns out. Last Man Standing returns to Fox, and The Watch comes to BBC America. I know you were actually kind of interested in that, right?
Yeah.
So I think we did a podcast earlier where you had talked about that as being something that you'd like to see. So we had mentioned like more stuff in that universe, and then we'd mentioned that show was coming. So that'll be fun. We'll have to see how that turns out. On Monday, January 4th, 30 Coins comes to HBO. On Tuesday, January 5th, This Is Us returns to NBC, as does Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist. On Thursday, January 6th, it's Chicago Night on NBC, Chicago Fire, Chicago Med, Chicago PD. On Thursday, January 7th, Coyote comes to CBS All Access, Law & Order SVU to NBC, and Mr. Mayor to NBC. On Friday, January 8th, Dickinson returns on Apple TV+, Cobra Kai returns on Netflix. We will be discussing season 3 of Cobra Kai at some point. And Lupin comes to Netflix. On Saturday, January 9th, A Discovery of Witches returns on Shudder and Sundance Now. On Sunday, January 10th, American Gods returns on Starz. Do you know anybody who's still watching that? Like, it kind of amazes me that that's still being made.
Yeah, I don't know. I stopped after season 1.
Yeah, I mean, season 1, after Brian Fuller left and stuff, I watched season 2 out of curiosity, but it was kind of a mess. And then now season 3, there's just been like nothing but bad news coming out of that set.
Wow.
Like Orlando Jones, like left the show because I guess the showrunner wanted to be less, the new showrunner wanted to be less like confrontationable about like race issues and stuff.
Yeah, fuck that. Fuck that. Like Orlando Jones, like entrance in the series is like still like one of the best scenes in like the entire show from my frame of reference, the first
Anger
season.
Gets Shit Done.
I mean, that's still like one of the best scenes in like any show, really.
Oh yeah. It was such like well timed too, because it happened kind of before the kind of all the Floyd Rose stuff started up, and George Floyd stuff started up.
Yeah.
And it really got like everybody going like, oh shit, like thinking about that. So that was a really kind of almost prescient scene to include.
Yeah.
Like, except that shit's been going on forever. So
the new showrunner coming in apparently like saying, that stuff won't fly. It was like basically what cemented like me like not bothering with the show anymore, because it's like this person's clueless.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
I'm on Orlando Jones' side.
Season 2 was messy. Like I watched season 2, but it was messy. But the showrunners that had taken over for Brian Fuller and Michael Green in season 2, like they left too. And this new showrunner looks like he just has no grasp over what's going on with this. And it's kind of like lost track of everything that's interesting about the show.
It's a complete mess.
Yeah. I don't even have Stars anymore. And I was thinking like, should I get Stars again? Should I buy the season on like, Google Play or something? And I'm like, I don't think so. Like, and nobody's talking about it anymore. It's not like even with season 2, there were people talking about looking forward to it coming back and stuff. And now like nobody's talking about the show. There's like zero buzz. So I think Stars just basically killed their own show, like slowly over the course of like 2 seasons. But yeah, that's American Gods, January 10th, if you are interested. On January 11th, The Good Doctor returns on ABC. On Tuesday, January 12th, Prodigal Son comes back to Fox, The Resident to Fox, Trickster to the CW. If only that was about the Trickster from Supernatural. That would be like the best show ever.
Right.
And Two Sentence Horror Stories comes to the CW. On Wednesday, January 13th, American Housewife comes back to ABC, Call Your Mother to ABC, The Connors to ABC, and The Goldbergs to ABC. On Thursday, January 14th, Superstore returns on NBC. On Friday, January 15th, Servant returns on Apple TV+, and WandaVision begins on Disney+. We are definitely going to be discussing WandaVision on this podcast.
Oh, 100%.
And then on Sunday, January 17th, Batwoman returns on the CW. There's going to be like a new Batwoman, I guess, last I heard.
Yeah, I guess we will not be discussing that because I've quit. I've basically quit the CW versus whole DC. I mean, it just got way way too goofy. And I was
Is Legends of Tomorrow still going? That was the only one I was still watching.
I think it is.
Yeah, that was the only one I was still watching.
Still
It was kind of disconnected from the other one, so it was still enjoyable.
Yeah. It's like I watched the first episode of Batwoman, and I just was not into it.
Yeah.
Way too goofy. I was like, forget it.
Also, Miss Scarlet and the Duke comes to PBS on that day. And then lastly, on Monday, January 18th, 911 returns to Fox, 911 Lone Star debuts on Fox, and All American comes to the CW. So that's it. It's a longer one than usual, but it's because we're going to be gone until I think the 11th is when we're recording our next podcast. So I needed to kind of cover all the stuff that's coming out before that, or between now and then, you know? As I mentioned, next week we're going to be taking 2 weeks off, and we're going to be returning around January 11th. So expect the podcast to go up maybe on the 12th or 13th, where we're going to be doing our best of 2020 list. So we're kind of hard at work at that right now, like going over, trying to remember everything that happened in 2020 in TV.
Yes.
Until then, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Tyson Gifford. You can follow Will. He is at Voxel Hero. You can check out our Facebook page and our YouTube channel, as well as our site, thetotalscreen.com. You can subscribe to the podcast through any major podcast client like iTunes or Pocket Cast, and the entire backlog of our podcast is available on our YouTube channel. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Night.
Good night.
If you would like to reach out to us and make a comment, send an email to contact@thetotalscreen.com. Stay tuned to The Total Screen for the very best in genre television.